Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today we're going to take a look at a newer offering from Microtech, this time in the Hera out the front. This is a little bit different than all of the other Microtech out the front knives that I brought out over the past decade or so that I've been doing this. I've owned UTX 85s, I've owned Daytonas way back when those were made, which is basically a UTX 85, a couple of UTX 70s, more Ultratechs than I can count, Halo 5, Dirac Delta, Combat Troodon, a couple of custom Combat Troodons in different blades and interceptors and recurves and things like that. So I've had a lot of experience with Microtech out the front knives, and I've really enjoyed pretty much all of them. This one, I'm not 100% sure on. I mean, I love how it looks. I mean, it is sexy as hell. It feels really, really good, but it's an interesting size for me. I didn't keep the UTX 85s. I didn't keep the Daytona. Obviously didn't keep the UTX 70s because they were so small. And I look at, it's weird because when I look at out the front knives, I seem to be very particular about their size. Even something as enormous as the Halo 5, I really like them on the larger side, but the more I saw the Hera, the more I liked the chassis design, I liked the blade design, and then when I saw the Shadow version of this in the Signature series, I went, well, I kind of have to have one. And they're pretty expensive for what they are, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. We're going to make some comparisons to some of the other knives in their lineup and see if the additional cost really is justified. I will say this, though. If you generally like smaller knives, whether out the front or folders or fixed blades, I think that you're really going to appreciate this knife. You're going to love the weight. You're going to love the snappy action of the automatic opening and closing. But I think for somebody that likes a little bit more of a substantial knife in their hand, you might have to put this in your hand to see for yourself if it's really going to be a winner. So I'm still kind of on the fence. Not sure if it's a keeper. Not sure if I'm going to turn around and sell it. If I do, I'll sell it for probably about 50 bucks less. That way somebody gets a really good deal on a rarer, limited version of the knife. I don't like to sell for over what things were charged for. But I'm going to make that determination over the next few days and see if it's a keeper, because it's a real conflict, because there's so much about it that's unique and different and really, really attractive, that kind of pushes all my buttons, that makes me go, you know, even if I don't carry it all the time, I kind of still want to have it in my collection. And that's the addiction that us collectors have. So we can always justify having, well, I'll get that because it's a little bit different. I'll get that because it has this or it has that. And it may not be something we really need, but it'll fill a little void that we have somewhere. And for me, I tell you, a lot of it, besides being the Shadow edition and being all blacked out and looking really good, it's this new sculpted titanium pocket clip. That is a big, big, big difference from all of the other out the front Microtech knives that have been available. And I got to tell you, I really, really dig that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get down to the tabletop review. We'll talk about the knife, the pros, the cons, the ups, the downs, the ins and outs, and a couple of bad dad jokes in between. Let's get down to the tabletop review right now and see what we think of it. All right, here we go. I want to give you a little bit of an unboxing experience, if I could, because I really liked the personal nature in which this was packed from NC Blade, which was the online retailer I purchased this from. There is the NC Blade family. How cute is that? And they give you a little candy. Sometimes all you need is a little candy and a knife. Aw, that's so cute and sweet. And stickers. Everybody needs to start doing stickers. We all love stickers, and that's going to get stuck on a toolbox for sure. And since my credit card actually has my legal name, James, on there, they wrote it out that way. Thank you for your order. We hope we've met your expectations. Why did the bullet lose its job? It got fired. Gotta love dad jokes. So I just like that little personalization there. It shows that they appreciate their customers and appreciate them for ordering with them and giving them business and allowing them to do what they enjoy. And that's the same way I feel about my business. You have to be thankful for the customers that you have because they're the ones that allow you to do the things that you enjoy. Now, we're going to get straight on into this. This is a signature series knife, and I will be discussing in just a couple of minutes here what separates a signature series Microtech from their standard line of Microtech production knives. So this is the packaging that you'll receive. Inside is a little pamphlet, really written for people that I think have never ever owned a knife. And judging by the size of Microtech and their distribution, because they could be in gun shops or anything else, they're selling to a lot of people. And a lot of people that aren't necessarily knife people. And I'm sure they have had a lot of customer service dollars tied up in telling people dumb shit like, you have to push the slider that way to open and this way to close. So I understand why they do that. Now, it will come in this little plastic baggie. It does warn you that it does have a sharp edge. And that's how they're packaged. Nice little foam insert there to keep everything nice and secure in shipping. And this is the knife. And I have to tell you, the Shadow edition is flat out sexy. I love the look of this knife. It's all I want to call it a matte black, but it's not. It's a soft satin, not satin in the meaning like in a satin rub blade where you have the striations, but I mean a satin finish that you would equate to paint jobs or anything else. It has that mildly reflective nature to it, even though it actually is a matte finish. I just love that. Love the pocket clip. And the blade on this is fantastic. So really the only thing on here that isn't completely all blacked out is just the exposed edge from sharpening. That is it. This thing is just wicked and mean and definitely has that whole tactical look going on for sure. It has that signature Microtech tactical look. And that honestly was the main thing that attracted me to it was the finish. This the Shadow Edition look I really, really fell in love with. I wasn't really all that attracted to the other ones. I did like that one designer series. I just, for whatever reason, the name of it just came and went right out of my brain. But it's kind of like that black and white, almost tribal looking design that was done on it. I'll think of it after the fact here and probably write it up here on the screen. Let's get into what the knife is all about after I kick the camera and move things around. It's still pretty oily from the factory, so every time I open and close it, I gotta kind of wipe it down so that you don't have to see a bunch of streaky oil on it. Alright, so this is the Microtech Hera Signature Series Shadow. And these sell for $560. Let me repeat that. $560. Now, while that is not a lot of money for a knife, it is a lot of money for many people that buy a lot of Microtech production knives because they're used to buying, Ultratechs and stuff for like $275, $300. And, even going up into the combat Troodons and stuff into the 400s, and then you start talking $560. Why is it $560? Hold your horses, bub. We will get to it. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get the specs up on the screen, and we'll discuss that. You're looking at an overall length open of 7.5 inches with a blade length of 3.08 inches. And there's been a lot of variance from person to person on what the actual blade length is. Microtech themselves measured it at 3.08 inches, so I'm going to go with that. Blade steel is M390. Microtech uses a lot of different blade steels, and a lot of times end up being a little bit more exotic than M390, so I found that to be an interesting choice. The chassis material is 6061 T6 aircraft grade aluminum, as we're accustomed to. The chassis length is 4.375, so that's your closed size. This is a true DLC, not a PVD applied black oxide finish. It's going to be one of your differences in the difference in price. The weight, let's talk about that. Let's break this out and see what the weight actually is. Because that's one of the things that I like and dislike at the same time, is that it's unbelievably lightweight, 3.2 ounces. Let me give you a frame of reference here. 4.7 for a knife I'm going to be using for comparison here in a moment. So while it's really convenient that it's lightweight, it almost feels like a toy because it's so lightweight. And that's really weird. I've only really ever had that experience a couple of times in collecting knives. Oddly enough, one other time was with a Microtech. I had bought a custom, the Mini Matrix. And it was all carbon fiber. And it was so lightweight that it didn't feel substantial. I don't want to say it felt cheap, because, it wasn't cheap. But in that little Mini Matrix in all carbon fiber, there was just no weight to it, and I couldn't get used to it. Even though it was a nice knife, I just couldn't get used to it, and I sold it immediately. Now, here's the thing. If you buy a Signature Series Shadow, you're looking at $560. If you buy a standard Microtech production Hera, and not in a Shadow, not in a Signature Series, it's $475. So there's a big price difference between the two. And $475 is still on the upper end for Microtech production. And this particular design, this newer design, was actually designed by Tony and Sean. For those that don't know, Sean Marfione, he is one of Tony's sons. He's the one that looks exactly like Tony, just younger. It's crazy. He also has the same mannerisms and speaks the exact same way that Tony does. So it's really, really cool to talk to him and and watch him talk, and you're like, oh my God, dude, it's like looking at your dad. It's insane. But Sean is really a super, super nice guy. I've only had a chance to meet him once or twice, and just a super easy to get along with, easy to talk to, very fun-loving, happy-go-lucky, funny guy. I've really enjoyed my interactions with him. Very, very nice guy. And his designs are a little bit edgier than a lot of the standard Microtech. And that's kind of hard to say, because Microtech is very edgy, isn't it? They're always on that tactical look. They always stylize everything that they do, but there's something about Sean's influence that I really, really dig. It might just be his youth, I don't know, but I really dig it. Now, what are the standout differences between the standard Microtech out the front knives and this? In the Signature Series, in the Hera, and in the Shadow. First off, you're going to notice that the claw logo is not just printed on. It's actually very, very deeply engraved. You can actually feel it. And being the Shadow, it's not done in white. It's all blacked out. So they've done the engraving, then they did the DLC coating over it. They didn't do any contrast, and I really, really dig that. Let's see. Fully sculpted titanium clip. That's another really big deal. Now, I don't hate the standard Microtech clips at all, but I strongly prefer this clip. It looks better. You're paying premium money for the knife. I would much rather have a sculpted titanium clip with the Beg ball. This is Todd Begg's creation, and he often allows other knife makers to copy it. This is a black ceramic ball that is inlaid into the titanium that allows it to slide in and out of the pocket very, very easily, even though it has very tight clip tension. It's a wonderful feature, and well, Todd's a freaking genius. I much prefer this over a stamped and bent steel clip. They look cheap for one, but again, they're put on their most budget knives, so I understand why they do it. But they also create a hot spot where they duckbill. This doesn't do that. I mean, you know the clip is there, but there's not a hot spot at all. So if you're gripping this in any normal grip, no problems whatsoever. Now, you're not really using an out-the-front knife for a hard-use cutter, where you're cutting down stuff all day long anyway. However, it is nice to have a smooth clip, and they've done really cool bevels on it all the way around, really stylized it. You've got the cutout here, which would allow you to tie a lanyard through it and have a lanyard hanging off. For those that don't know, that's a feature of that. Plus, you've got this section here. So you can, as you're drawing the knife, you could just simply pinch it right here, and the fat of your finger will drop in, and it allows you something to snag to pull it up to get it out of your pocket more reliably. Or you can tie a lanyard through there, have a little bead hanging off, and you can use that if you like lanyards. So I kind of dig that. The other difference with the Hera model versus any other Microtech is it's a bit more of a curvy, ergonomic style chassis, and that's enhanced by all the beveling that's been done all the way around the outer perimeter. I dig that as well. I think it looks really, really good. It's a sharp look. Speaking of sharp, some people have complained about this. Yes, you do feel this outer edge. It's not, somebody said it was razor sharp, and it's not, but it is a noticeable harsh edge. However, because of the bevels and the way that your hand will wrap around it, I really don't hardly feel it when I'm holding the knife. Yes, I'll feel it a little bit right there, but it's really not a big deal at all. It's certainly not a deal breaker for me. Doesn't faze me at all. Another thing that you're probably going to really love is there's no billboarding on the blade. Let's wipe that down again. My God, they oil the living crap out of these in the factory. So there is no billboarding. Man, Microtech will put all kinds of shit printed on their blades, and the Heras, even the non-signature editions, the standard versions, they do not have billboarding. And I am so thankful for that, because regardless of the brand, I hate a bunch of text all over my blades. It really, really irks me. This is nice and clean, looks really, really good. And let's see what else. The birth date and serial number are engraved into the side. That's something that all the Heras have, but being the Shadow version, there is no contrast color in there, so again, everything is completely blacked out. There's no glass breaker on the butt end of the knife, and a lot of people will appreciate that. I could take it or leave it. I like having the glass breaker on the Microtechs. It's never bothered me in the slightest. It's never been in my way. Yes, if you're doing a reverse grip for some reason, if you are Ultimate Mall Ninja Knife Fighter, and you are doing a reverse grip, I'm just kidding. Yes, I realize that there are people trained to fight with knives, and they do like to carry out the fronts. I'm just making a joke. Calm down in the friggin' comments section. Yes, you would want to have this instead of your thumb getting stuck in a sharp object. Totally get that. Now, the differences between a signature series and a standard Microtech production, and I don't know if this has changed at all, but I know when they introduced the signature series a few years ago, the biggest deal about it was that all the blades were hand ground, not machine ground. So, this should have a hand ground blade. That does make it worth more money. And then you get the Marfione signature on the clip on signature series knives. And then, of course, the packaging that says signature series. So, is it worth going from $475 for a standard production Hera to go to a Signature Series Shadow version at $560. Your mileage may vary, but I don't know if it's really worth it for me. I wanted that all blacked out look, so I paid extra for that. That was what mainly attracted me to this knife, was that completely all blacked out look. It's sexy as shit. As I do a comparison here that you guys knew was coming, we're going to talk about the finishing, we're going to talk about the action, we're going to talk about the lockup and reliability. Here's your size differences between the Hera and the Hawk Knives Deadlock Model C, which is my personal favorite out the front, many people's favorite out the front. You see it is significantly smaller. This is a small knife. I don't care how it looks in pictures. I don't care how it looks on other people's videos. That is a small knife. 3.08 inch blade. It is a small knife. Even as much as I love the look of my all black Model C with the carbon fiber, you've got the accents of the stone-washed titanium in the clip, in the grip section, and in the switch. I prefer, finish-wise, I prefer this completely all blacked out look. I think it is sexy as shit. It really is John Wick level cool. It really is. Now, while there is still a substantial difference in price between these two, these were $1,100 when they were first introduced. You're never going to buy a Model C for under $1,500. You're paying between $1,500 and $1,800 if you're lucky enough to find one. This is $560. Even a Marfione Custom is, well, it's pretty much going to get to be about the same price. He's done some really, really nice full hand-rub satin chassis and steel chassis and mirror polish blades and stuff, and the full customs. And yeah, that gets you up to this price and higher. You can't compare the two. A lot of people always want to compare every out the front made to a Model C. You can't. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, let's talk about how solid the lockup is. It's as close, it's so close to the deadlock. No, it's not. Listen. It jiggles a little bit up and down. It jiggles a little bit this way. Boy, I really don't want to touch it on the edges. It jiggles a little bit that way. Now, it is significantly less jiggle than any other Microtech out the front in a double action. Obviously, the single actions like the Halos, stuff like that, Dragon Slayers, things like that, they lock up completely solid. But for a double action out the front, this does have less wiggle and jiggle and rattle, but it still does. Deadlock has absolutely zero. There is no play whatsoever. Nothing. There is nothing there. It cannot, boy, I almost sliced the hell out of myself. It cannot move. There is nothing you can do to make that blade jiggle, wiggle, nothing. But yeah, you are paying significantly more money for this. I'm not discounting that at all. But for those that try to compare these favorably, you cannot do it. The level of quality is not the same. This also feels more substantial. Maybe it's just because it's a bigger knife. But honestly, there's just no comparison. I also like the Dirac Delta more than this. There was something about having that top side switch that I really enjoyed. And it's funny because most of the out the front knives I've owned have had the side switch because most of them have been Microtechs and Marfione Customs. And I've always liked it. By the way, this switch and this action feels a lot better than an Ultratech. Really, there is a significant difference. I like that a lot. Big difference from this. This fires significantly harder, but it's a larger knife with stronger springs, so I think that's going to be expected. But this still fires harder than most smaller sized Microtech out the fronts. And so far, I haven't gotten it to jam up on me. So maybe they've done something to make it a little bit more reliable. Because usually, and that's not fast, but usually if you go that fast with a Microtech, you'll end up popping that thing off the track. So I'm going to say it right now, I'm damn impressed with that. I could do that with almost any Microtech I've ever owned, and it would have popped off the track and I would have had to reset the blade. Something's changed. Something's different. I like that. All right, so for me, I just don't know yet if it truly is a keeper. But it's mainly because of the size, not because of the quality. I'm really liking how it feels in the hand. I'm liking the extra bevels. I like the extra kind of sexy shape to it. Love, 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 love the pocket clip. Love the switch. Love the action. Love the blade style. Love the finishing. But the way I look at it personally, and this is a personal thing that has nothing to do with anybody else's opinion, an out the front is never a utility type knife for me. It's primarily a light use cutter. You know, I may cut, tape off a box or cut some twine or something like that, but it's certainly never going to be used to cut down cardboard or shear a sheep or take testicles out of a bull. I don't know what you guys do with your knives, but to me it's not a hard use style of knife. And it may be a second, third, fourth backup defensive weapon. For a small knife like this, I'd want a folder for real cutting use, to be honest with you, because that's what they're made for. This is really honestly made for doing this, and maybe a little slashing. No out the front at all, but really made by anyone, is made to be a hard use utility knife. It's also a little too small for me to take seriously to consider as a backup defensive weapon. I'm going to carry something larger like this if it's an out the front that I'm carrying as a backup defensive tool. It's gorgeous, it's well made, it's pretty unique, but I wish it was about a half an inch longer. So I'm gonna live with it for about the next week or so. I'm gonna play with it, I'm gonna carry it. And I think honestly, I'm probably going to fall in love with it in the way that I want to keep it, beyond just the aesthetics of it, because it looks really, really, really cool. It functions really well. It feels nice in the hand. The action feels nice. There is a lot to really enjoy about this knife. But in the back of your mind, you're always going to go, at the price I paid, at $560, could I replace this with a knife that I would enjoy as much, but carry more often and use more often? And that's the thing that I'm going to be considering. It's not, well, should I keep it because I don't know if I like it? No. I know I like it. I think it's a damn cool knife. But do I like it more than another knife that I could own that I would carry more often and get more use out of? That's the question. And that's the question I'll be answering myself over the course of the next week. Quick little thing here. I'm going to give you guys a couple little sneak peeks of knives that I'll be reviewing here very, very shortly. Some of you know what this knife is. Many of you do not. I'm not going to say what it is just yet, but I want you to notice no exposed hardware. None. Really, really nice fat carbon scales. Fast action, smooth action, flush fitting blade when the blade is closed. In the $300 price range. Pretty cool. And a new version of the Thick Boy from EMP EDC. I'll be reviewing this in just a day or two. I'm actually pretty damn excited about it because I've never had a Thick Boy. I've got all my Nimbles, and I truly, truly, truly love them. And this new V2 that has the forward finger choil makes for a big, fat, thick boy in your hand to be a lot more comfortable. So there's that. So those two videos will be coming to you very, very shortly. I hope you guys join me for them. And until then, I'll see you on the next video.